Okay, we're going to be working now with a very important tool in Illustrator, the pencil tool. This is a freeform drawing tool that has a lot of power and a lot of settings to get exactly what it is that you're looking for, or assist you in your own illustrative work. The pencil is going to be a primary tool for the front end of this course, as it's going to apply to our first still life exercises and our first project. The pencil tool will be one that you end up using quite a bit, but I have a feeling once we get to the pen tool, it will be a much more powerful element in the tool belt for you, and we'll see why after we get into this stuff. Let's start a new document. I'm going to create new, and I'm going to use the art and illustration group here, the presets, to access the 800 by 600. Boom. Now that gives me my artboard for doing some illustrative work. We're going to find the pencil. The pencil is, if it's in different places every time they release Illustrator. The newest version has the pencil stashed under the paintbrush. So if you click and hold on the paintbrush icon, you'll see there are three items: the paintbrush, the blob brush, and then the pencil tool. And there we have the pencil. The pencil tool itself deals with delivering a path. Whatever line that you make, marks on your artboard, will be delivered with a series of points connected by segments, and it'll create some sort of a line or shape or form, whatever it is that we're going to be making. It's important for us to look at the properties panel, where we can get a little bit more information and fine-tune what it is that we want our pencil to do. So the first thing that is critical for us to get a grasp on, especially since you want to do real well in the still life exercises and the project, we need to acknowledge that there are two creative settings for objects that we apply to the artboard, and that is a fill and a stroke. So if I was to draw a circle, let's say, I have the capability of filling that circle with a certain color or pattern, and also making that circle have a line or a stroke along the path of a certain color, a certain weight, a certain behavior. These first marks that we make for this course are going to be just strokes only. So we don't want any fill. And these are little swatches you can click on. And if I click on the fill swatch, a little pop-up window gives me color options, but the very first one is a red slash, and that means none. And you're saying, I don't want any fills, all I want are lines. Just as if you were taking a pencil to a piece of paper, you just wanted to make a line. Now, we've said no fill, we're going to move on to the stroke. The stroke, if you click on the swatch of it, gives you some color options. But again, there are some specifics about how I want you to start working through this course, and I want us to stay with black just as a base progress for us here. However, there are some things that we can do about our stroke. The stroke name is underlined, which means, hey, click on me, I've got more information for you. So if you click on the word stroke, it opens up a flyout menu where we can change the weight of the stroke, and that means how thick the line will be. There are caps, and so there's a butt cap, a round cap, and a projecting cap. We'll have a look at these as we start to make some marks so you can understand what they are and how they work. And then we have corner behavior. So how do you want your lines to behave if you sort of create a jagged corner or a sharp kind of turn in the line? And we'll look at those too as we make these marks. And then eventually we'll have a look at the align and some of the other information down here. But for now, that's all we really need to do. The weight, just for the sake of this this tutorial, I'm going to make it rather rather big. I'm going to use a 5-point. And then the last thing we have here is an opacity. We'll also talk about that a little bit later. But right now, what I've done is I've gone and I've said, all right, I want my pencil strokes to be black with no fill, and I want the weight of the line to be 5 points. The pencil is activated, and before I continue to make any more marks, I should know, or I should let you know, that the pencil has more attributes if you double click on it. And so we double click on that pencil tool, it opens up the options for it. And the first thing that we have is fidelity, and it's a slider from accurate to smooth. So accurate means that there will be more points laid down throughout the distance of the line to record specific nuances of the mark that you made on the artboard. So it'll be more true to what you sketched, basically. The more we move towards smooth, the fewer points will be laid down along that path, and the more rounded in nature or simplified the line will become. Sometimes this is great if you're trying to make really nice curves that look smooth and tight and tidy. Then you can move towards more smooth. But we're going to start with the fidelity at accurate, just so we can compare strokes as we move through with this tool. The options we have for this are, do you want to fill new pencil strokes? And we do not, but it is something that you can check later if you do end up in positions where you're making marks that you need to have a fill inside of them. Do we want to keep the line selected after we draw that? I'm going to say no right now, and I'll explain that to you a little bit later, and you'll see why. There is an option where you can use the option key to toggle a smooth tool, whatever. We're just going to skip through that right now. And then there's an option for closing paths. If you get within a certain amount of pixels, how do you want Illustrator to help you close a path? We haven't really talked about closed or open paths yet, but we will. And then the last thing that we have here is, do we want to edit selected paths? And yes, we will edit some paths that are selected. So this is cool. We'll just leave it like this. We'll hit OK. And I'm going to just draw, dog's head. So coming up under the head here, the eyes, the snout, the nose, and then underneath the mouth, and then down, and maybe there's a collar, and then up here we kind of close that thing off. So there, I've made a stroke, a path, a mark on the paper that is sort of the outline of a dog's head. Can you see it? Do you know where I'm coming from? But if you could tell, I kind of had a little bit of a shaky hand, and you can see the nature of that mark is, kind of true to how I moved along with my line. And I drew this with a stylus and a graphics tablet. You're going to have a much harder time drawing with a trackpad or a mouse. And if you are going to continue through this class using a trackpad on your laptop, I will reach through this screen and slap you in the face. It's just such a bad idea. Go ahead, get yourself a graphics tablet. This is an Illustrator course. You should know how beneficial these graphics tablets are for our work, okay? Let's see, so anyways, I'll draw a little ear and, the nose, something like that, maybe. Okay, there's my dog. It looked a lot better just as an outline. Now I'm going to try this whole dog again by changing the fidelity, and I'll go almost all the way smooth just to see what kind of a difference we might get. So I'm going to try to follow a similar path going up, doing the head, the eyes, the snout, the nose, the mouth, under the neck, and then up. And you can see very quickly what has happened. It really generalized my shape. This gave me nice smooth lines. If I come in and I try to do the dog's ear again, it's definitely more rounded. I'll do this little nose bit and then the mouth. And the difference between those two marks is quite drastic, and that is because of the power of fidelity. So the one on the left was done with the accurate, and the one on the right was done 3 steps towards smooth, not all the way. If I went even more, if I wanted maximum smoothness, then this would be even exaggerated a bit more. What's actually happening in here, if we have a look, if I select these with the direct selection tool, you can see that the first drawing has just 100 or more points that make up the stroke, the path of my pencil mark. Many points, and what that means is that there's shorter distances between them, there's not as many Bezier handles, and it's going to be a more accurate representation of my drawing. The one on the right, with a higher smoothness and fidelity, has greater distance between points and only has a few of them, maybe like a total of 20. And if I were to click on a point, you can see that the Bezier handles are what's really kind of making those curves and the shape happen, instead of it being a series of points. It's more about how do I move from this point to that point with a good instruction of a curve using the Bezier handle. So that is the first thing that we should note, is the power of the pencil has fidelity. How much help or assistance do you want from Illustrator in order to make those lines work more efficiently for whatever it is that you're drawing or illustrating? I am going to select all and delete and make a few more marks so that we can talk about a few other settings. So right now, I think, what am I? I'll go all the way smooth, and I'm going to make just a line, okay? So we can talk about some of the stroke settings. So I made a line. Now I want to address some of the attributes of that line. I'm going to select it. So I just used my selection tool, and I selected this guy. It's now part of the properties information over here, so I can revisit what this stroke panel has to tell me. The stroke panel right now, I have my weight. I can change the weight of this, right? So I can just click on the little arrows and do it incrementally, or there's a flyout menu where I can choose a specific weight. I can go like super thin at 0.5, or I can go up to 100. That is not the max. You can go beyond it by using the arrows or typing in a value. So I'll just go back to, I'll go to like 8. No, I'm going to go bigger just so we can talk about a few things. I'll go to 12. So that's your weight. Now the cap, if you take a look at how this path is constructed, this one has a point on this end and a point on that end, and has a segment in between those points, has a little bit of a curve value. And I'll just go to my direct selection tool real quick. No, that wasn't it. There you go. So you can see that the point is right up at the very end of my line. If I want to address the nature of the points at the end of my line, I can use that stroke panel and say, well, what if I use a round cap? And now you can see that the end of the line is not squarish in nature, it's rounded, so it's softer, a little more organic. And then the projecting cap is back to a squarish cap. However, if I use my direct selection tool, you can, I want to get it. There we go. You can see that the line is projecting past the point at the same distance that the weight of our stroke is basically divided by 2. So it's equally whatever stroked around the path and projects past. This is nice if you're trying to if you've drawn something and you realize some of your strokes don't quite touch other lines, you can change the line to a projected cap, and they'll extend and also don't feel like those lines might be touching. So that's back to the stroke panel. Well, we're going to make a different line so we can actually see some of this stuff. No. Doink. I'm going to make another line that has some zigzags. Let's select it. Okay, so now in my stroke panel, I can address what these corners are. So this first corner is a miter join, and it's going to give me sharp corners. If I choose the next one, it's a round join, so now I've rounded those corners off a little bit. And the last one is a bevel, and that kind of gives you square-ish corners. And this all depends on what your style is, what sort of energy you need to give your artwork and your marks. So the miter ends up being a little more aggressive, but there might be times when you're trying to do like the hair of a cat or something, and you need it to be pointy, and that's exactly what you would want, unless you're trying to say, no, it needs to be softer, a little bit more easier, less harsh. So that's what's going on with your corners, okay? I'm going to stop there for the pencil tool, and we're going to go into the pencil in more depth in the next video. Thank you.